Good morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of Richard Fowler's Austin Real Estate Insider. On today's show, Richard and I are going to talk a little bit about relocating to Austin. So, for those of you that are watching this that don't live in Austin, we're going to tell you how to choose the right suburb and get Richard's advice from 13 years of working in this market and helping you to understand all the different neighborhoods and areas around the Austin area because each of them has their own kind of unique flair and unique weirdness in some cases with Austin, which you'll learn. So stay tuned. We'll be right back on in just a second.
Across a line of burning coal, and maybe my absence takes a toll. It's true. No, I'm always walking in the direction of you.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Richard, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Jeff. How you doing?
It's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today because it's one of the things I love about being here in the Austin area. It's very different in different parts of town.
It's interesting how different it can be. I have conversations with family, friends, and clients, and Austin is completely different depending upon what area you're living in and what you want
Yeah.
to live in downtown in the condos is totally different than living in the suburbs. And I've had clients transition between those where they move
Hmm.
downtown because they want to get into the downtown vibe for a while. And okay, I'm thinking I'm going to have kids. So suburbia looks better with the schools and stuff like that. So it's lifestyles. Everybody has different lifestyles.
Which is fun. It's what makes it fun. It's a unique place to live. It's one of the weirdest places I've ever lived in, but I enjoy it because of that. It's
We embrace it. Keep Austin weird. So it's
keep
good.
Austin weird. When you talk to a family who's moving here blind, let's say they're in Seattle and they're thinking about, I'm going to relocate to Austin, how do you match them up with the right suburb?
Really, it's a criteria. It always starts with what are their goals and objectives? What's their time frame? And are they working from home? Are they working? Do they have to be in proximity to an office? Do they have kids? How important is school district to them and those types of things? Do they have special needs kids? That's another
Yeah.
thing that comes into the play is that's just kind of qualifying them and getting an understanding. It's like dating a lot of ways, that first date where you're just trying to get to know the other part. And we just start talking about, I'm like, you can't tell me or AI for that matter. You can't tell me too much information what you tell me will help me better understand you and better position you for your transition. So it really starts there. And we kind of work through that criteria. And then once we understand kind of the area of town that they need to be in, if they tell me they need to be in downtown Austin, the first conversation we have is, okay, what are we looking at from a commute standpoint?
Yeah.
I have people tell me, again, you mentioned Seattle or whatever, but I have people that tell me they're coming from a specific part of the country or globe, and they're like, we want to be within 15 minutes of their office, or we want to be whatever it is, right? And then you kind of go through that criteria, and that helps you start narrowing down the areas. Okay. Then, of course, you migrate into what are you looking for, size of lot, type of house, those types of things too. And it kind of creates an overlay of what they're looking for.
Okay.
And then the next thing really gets into the whole discussion on should I move there and rent for a while and get a feel for the city, or should I buy? Right. And we have that discussion too. I think the biggest opportunity for purchasing is our market right now.
Mm.
We're in the best buyer's market than we've been in pretty much since I've been in real estate, really. And it's one of those situations where there's about a balanced market. We got about 6 months of inventory out there in a lot of areas. And we've seen home prices that have pulled back from the pandemic timeframe and stuff like that. And so there's more buyer negotiation right now than there has been in many years. That's part of the conversation, and that's part of the expertise that I share with them is boots on the ground. It's like you can come here and you can start looking, rent 6 months, rent a year, whatever it is, and get a feel for the city. Or given the current state of things, maybe it's time to go ahead and pull the trigger and purchase. And we talk about
Mhm.
how that looks.
Yeah. We both live in Williamson County, so it's a ginormous county, and that's primarily where you work. Although I think you were down in Buda earlier this week. But
I actually live in Travis,
yeah,
and
true. Yeah, you do.
yeah. So I'm actually in Travis, a sliver of Cedar Park that's in Travis. And I was in Kyle yesterday, and I'm about to list a house in Kyle. So,
Yeah.
and it kind of My breadth is a little bit larger than most because I do farm and ranch and commercial
Okay.
land development too. So I own Central Texas. I was born about an hour from Austin, and
Yeah.
I've lived in San Antonio and I've lived in Dallas, and but really since 2003 I've been in Central Texas, and it's home to me, and so I know it
Yeah.
very well.
Let's talk about some of the around us here, those of us that are in Williamson County, not the sliver of Travis
Yeah,
that they wanted to sneak in there and get the tax revenues from that
yeah,
area, but
yeah,
provide no services for.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about a few of the towns around here, like Cedar Park. When you try and match up somebody with, let's say, Cedar Park, who's the typical kind of family or person that you're going to match up with Cedar Park that fits really well here?
Again, it goes through the criteria list. A lot of things about Cedar Park is it's in Leander ISD, which is a
Okay.
great school district. Okay.
Yep.
And so you have the ability to come into this area, and I have a lot of people, that's the driving factor. They want to be in Cedar Park High School, or, it's usually one of the ones that they focus on. I had some clients recently, that was one of the key criteria is that they wanted to be in Cedar Park High School. Or,
Interesting.
yeah, and it's one of those things where they knew a little bit about Cedar Park and we talked about it and everything like that. Great place to live. But it's one of those things. And I moved here from Frisco, North Dallas. So
Mhm.
when I moved here, I was trying to find something similar to what we had in Frisco. And
Yeah.
Cedar Park was really the one of the best matches for that. So that's how I ended up in Cedar Park myself. And I think that plays into it. I've been in the area since 2003 and grown up around Texas, although I traveled extensively. So that helps too. I tell the story about an agent I was sitting next to when I first got into real estate, and he was talking to his clients. And he was going on and on about how bad the traffic was, which I laugh about now because I was like 13. And he was going on and on about how bad the traffic is and this, that, and the other thing. And he got off the phone and he mentioned the traffic several times. He got off the phone and I asked him, I said, where are your clients moving from? And he goes, California. And I said,
Yeah.
you can let go of the traffic thing. They're going to love it here. I can
This,
tell you that's
yeah,
not gonna be a
this is
problem for
nothing. Yeah,
them.
you actually move in traffic here. You don't
Yeah.
just sit there for hours.
And that was part of it is that he had never lived anywhere other than Austin. So
Okay.
traffic was a problem for him,
Yeah.
but he was extending his paradigm onto them. And I was laughing. I said, that's one of the great things about somebody like me who's traveled extensively and lived different
Yeah.
places, stuff like that, that we have a frame of reference that goes beyond just Central Texas.
Yeah. It's beyond traveling for vacation. You were traveling for work. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I've got to get from the hotel to where I'm working at for the day. And yeah, the commute is a major factor in a
Yeah,
lot of,
but it's also understanding. I mean, there's a lot of psychology and psychiatry really that goes into real
Mm,
estate too. Getting into the mindset of what people are going to go through. It's inherently challenging to move across the country, right?
mm,
And I've facilitated that many times. And part of it is because I understand what the clients are going through. I'm also able to help them if they don't have a realtor where they're coming from. I'm actually able to qualify a realtor on their side and help them get a listing agent and be part
nice.
of the process of helping take care of them on that side. And it just fits into me taking over when they get to this side. And
That's awesome.
ultimately, everything we do is my team, Donna and myself and the ARC team, is that we focus on what's best for our clients. And so if it get into that thing where we really want to rent for a while, I've had clients come in to rent 6 months, 12 months, or
Mhm.
whatever, and then I've helped them buy after that. In some cases, it has worked out for them because I've had some that come on the south side and realize they want to be on the north side. And so they were glad they didn't buy. The other side of that, as we were talking about a minute ago, I've had clients that came in and they ended up, we dialed in the area through the website and through visits and things like that to a point where they were comfortable pulling the trigger and they got that house that they love and they're so happy that they pulled the trigger when they did. So basically.
Yeah. When you talk to people that are coming here from outside of the area, what when out of state buyers, what do you think surprises them the most about Central Texas?
They come from a place that doesn't have high property taxes. That's one of the
Yeah.
things that comes up is property tax.
Surprise.
Because we
Yeah.
don't have personal income tax here, so
Yeah.
that's the property taxes is one of the things. And I've had many a discussion with the Californians on that, which I always laugh at because I said, you're still doing better than being in California. But we kind of go through that scenario a few times. But it's really, I try to, and one thing that's really good is technology. Okay.
Mm.
So our website, our platform allows us to set up searches and criteria in certain areas of town where they can learn the type of house, the style of house,
Mm.
what's going on as far as movement and stuff like that in the properties themselves. What are they going through? How long they're sitting on the market? What the negotiations is, what are they listed at and what they sell at? All those kind of things help you start dialing in the feel for the property. The other thing too is that, I should say the area of town. The other thing too is that I try to get an understanding of what their lifestyle is like. What was it? Is
Mm.
it schools? Is it sports? I had one client that their son was an ultimate frisbee guy. That was his life, was ultimate
Yeah.
frisbee. So they wanted
So
to
you got to be somewhere close to that kind of
they
stuff.
wanted to
Yeah.
be in proximity to something like that. And so we were looking around town to find out the best fit for them for ultimate frisbee.
Mm.
And it can be that, or it can be cycling, or it just depends on what I've had. And I work to try to dial them into their lifestyle. So if it's a situation where they don't know anything about Austin, I start asking again more qualifying questions about them. What do you do? What do you like to do? Is it restaurants? What type of restaurants? And then what I'll do is, in preparation for them coming to town, I'll send them information on the things that they like, whether
Yeah.
it's sports or whatever it is, and we'll start kind of going through that. So it just builds that comfort level for them about what we talk about, the F1 racetrack. Are you like racing? We have one on only F1 tracks in North America, so it's here. So there's Austin is, I like the word eclectic, but
Yep.
there's something for everybody here. It really is.
And it's one of the few towns I've ever lived in where there's literally something going on every, like big stuff, almost every month. There's some major event like ACL or of the
Yours both birthday party. I love that one.
yeah,
So
Zilkerfest
yeah.
and the F1 stuff and all that. There's
Oh,
always something really big going on here in town, and it's a big draw, which can also be a pain in the butt for those of us that live here because you these injections of tons of people, and it makes traffic a booger to try and get around town unless you live up north where we live.
I would say that's relative based on the size of the city, though. And if you have a sizable city, then there is going to be traffic patterns and rush
Yep.
hour and stuff like that. And the thing is like the California thing, I've told people, we still have a defined rush hour. You don't have to leave office by 2 o'clock in the afternoon to try to get home by
Yeah.
dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Typically
If you leave at 3 in the
hour.
afternoon, you're
Yeah.
probably not going to run into any traffic at
Yeah,
all getting
so
around town.
and you have to keep it. Otherwise, I sell you a ranch, right?
Yeah.
We'll find you a ranch to purchase. But there's different things to look at. But I think relatively it's good. I honestly like the globalization of Austin in Central Texas
Okay.
because we have people come from all over. And we get it. My wife's big into cooking and stuff like that. We've been watching the kind of the cooking shows and stuff. And it's amazing to me how much food and art and other things are in the city. Even living here all this much as time as I have been. They were doing an expose one day on fish and chips and being on South Congress. And
Huh.
all the British were talking about how this is the best place in town to go get fish and chips. And I'm like, never
Wow.
heard of that place.
Okay.
I'll have to try that out.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. And to your point, you could really, if you didn't have to work, you could just go to festivals all the time. There's always
Yeah.
something going on.
Yeah. And like I said, that's the cool thing about being here, and you don't have to do it. There's stuff to do in the individual neighborhoods. I look at Cedar Park here, how much is changing here in Cedar Park with what they're growing with the Shields and Nebraska Furniture Mart and a new convention center hotel and all that, plus the HEB Center. All of those things, people thought we were crazy because I know they had built HEB Center a couple of years before I moved here, and everybody was like, why would you put this gigantic arena up in this little goofy town north of Austin? Now, and there's big acts that come into this place now.
They've been talking about that forever, so it's interesting to see the fruition of it. But
Yeah.
it's even that HEB center, it's 8,000 seats roughly. I mean,
Yeah.
really affordable to go see. You got the farm team for the Dallas Stars hockey, the Texas Stars. They
Hmm.
have basketball there, they have concerts
Yep.
there, they have all kinds of stuff, and it's really easy and affordable to do these days. And
Mm.
it's one of those things now they're adding, like you said, the Shields and Nebraska Furniture Market and all that stuff, which equates to a tax base, which helps the homeowners and stuff
That's
like that
exactly
too.
right.
So
Yeah.
my little sliver of Cedar Park in Travis County, when we first moved there, our tax rate was 3.2% in that one area. Now it's a little over 2, I think. It's been
Yeah.
dropping as things have been coming on. So that helps you too in that respect, affordability for your home. But all of those factor in. It's really, we got Q2 coming in with our football soccer program and stuff like that. It's huge. They're talking about where they're going after NHL right now. I don't know if you've heard that in the news recently, but they're trying to bring on an NHL team here. And so that'll be interesting to see. It's between us and Houston, I think. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes through. So it's a lot of good stuff.
I don't see a major league team coming here, but we'll go with that. We have the San Antonio Spurs farm team and the Dallas Stars farm team here. They're pretty good, and actually they're a lot more fun to watch, surprisingly.
I totally agree. I totally agree. When you're competing with Houston, that's a whole nother world, but just big mega city and everything.
There's a lot more money and a lot more bodies there, but it's totally fine. If we just keep
work for me.
Yep. So, you got Major League Soccer. That's the biggest game in the world, and we have one of the best teams here in Austin. I think it's very interesting. So when somebody's coming from, let's say Seattle, and they can't really get down here, how do you serve those folks who are buying sight unseen at that point? How do you help them?
During the pandemic years, I actually had some clients that bought sight unseen. I would go to the property and do property tours for them like that and give them feedback, obviously the data on the numbers and all the other stuff too. But I would actually walk the properties with them and videoing and talk about this and that. And there are things that I saw that I would perceive as issues and want to know about, and let them ask me questions about what about this and what about that. I always recommend seeing the property yourself, because you have a paradigm and something that I may not catch, you would catch or whatever, or something that I may see as a problem, you don't see as a problem, and things like that. But I had a few of those happen then. Typically what we do is we start building your top 5, your top 10, top 10, 15 properties that you come in. And sometimes that's one visit. I typically like for you to do it a couple times just so you can dial things in, but they'll come in and we'll knock out properties. And I try to limit to 5 or 6 properties a day, because after a while they all just start blending together anyway, and you're worn out. But I've done it where I've had people that have come in and I've showed them 30 properties and 3 or 4, and they bought something. I've had people that have come in, and one client came in and the first property I showed them was the one they bought. That was the property.
That was it. Yeah.
So fine, okay, we'll cancel.
Doesn't always happen that way, but
very, very, very. And then I even told them, I said, why don't we go see a couple other properties, because some frame we already got them scheduled. And they're like, no, we're good. But it's really that. And then the other things that people don't think about is that if it's new construction or if there are repairs and things like that happen, then I actually, as part of my services, will go out there and meet with contractors or meet with the builder or go to inspections or whatever I need to do to help have be their boots on the ground, if you will, for them. And so I can talk through that. And I just I've done that on both sides, people moving out of the country, people moving into the country and in the States and things like that. Try to make the process go as seamless as possible.
I would say that's the real key thing is, okay, if they fly in, they go find the house and all that, but then it's, oh crap, now I've got to coordinate with all these people. You providing that service of, hey, I'm here. So if it needs a human there, I can be there when you need me to and handle some of that stuff and just coordinate. That's what makes that big stressful move much less stressful in the long run.
I'm going to try to be full service. And ultimately, my objective is to have you realize your real estate goals and objectives, and frankly, have such a good experience that you refer me to your friends and you come back to me, friends and family come back to me in the future. So it's a lifetime engagement as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So last question I have before we wrap this up, what's the biggest relocation mistake that you see and how do you prevent it with clients?
Boy, that's a good question. I think the biggest one is stress. I think that a lot of times, again, it gets back into the psychology and stuff like that, is you're so stressed to make a decision or make the right decision or under a gun and everything like that, that sometimes the potential is there to make bad decisions is the best. And so that's why a good realtor can be really helpful too, is it's you have all the power. You don't have to pull the trigger on this, or if you're not feeling it, don't do it.
Mm.
It's a big expenditure. And I
Yeah.
think something that goes missed a lot of times is that in the process of going through and we got to get the house or we got to do this or we got to do that. I want to help you achieve your objectives, but if you're pushing it to the point where you're just not sure, or you're uncomfortable and it's stressing you out, let's just back up and rethink this. So
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. Just managing that, managing what it could be a very bad situation and turning it into a good situation for them and a good experience.
And on the other side of it too is that if it's a competitive property, back when we were in the pandemics, I told people stuff that I never thought I would hear myself say about what they have to offer on properties based on the data, which was hourly.
Yeah.
And then I'd have these conversations and they'd look at me like I was nuts. And I'm like, I feel nuts. I'm with you.
I have no
That is
idea.
tough.
Yeah, I
So,
have no ability to say why I'm having to tell you this, but
oh, it was
yeah,
crazy, but
awesome.
good stuff.
Good. Thank you for sharing today. I thought this was a really good session. Folks, we do these shows for you, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give us an upvote if you can, and we'll see you guys back here next week for next week's show.